Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am creating a shaker box card. It's a shadow box with a shaker window. I love it. I am featuring new products from Heffy Doodle in today's card that I am in love with. I love woodland. So these are the cards that inspired me today. I first created this shadow box shaker using the new bedhead stamp set. You can see there's a little pig in the bed. He's not feeling well, and you can look in the window and wish him well, and his little pills have spilled out, and that's what is in the shaker element. I also created this card right here with this squirrel jumping into a pile of leaves, which I thought was a really fun color combination and would make a really good shadow box and shaker combined. These are the products I'm using. This is the Falling Leaves stencil. I have the Nuts About You stamp and coordinating die set. So adorable. And then I'm going to use this die set right here, the Forest Leaves die set. There's also another new die set that I love. This is the Tree-MENDOUS Peekaboo Tree Set. I'm going to use this border across the top, and I didn't know it at this moment, but I'm going to use a bunch of other dies from that set. This is a peekaboo set. There are two different openings you can cut in that tree to have a little peek inside. Then I'm going to use this, has to be my favorite new die from the release, the wood grain texture background. I'm also going to use the Woohoo Shadow Heffy Cut die, and this is the big shadow box die. This is not brand new from Heffy Doodle, but it's new to me, and I love shadow box dies. So I'm super excited to use it. I'm going to first die cut these two largest pieces at the same time to create the window for the front of my box. Then I'm going to cut another of that largest die without the window piece, and then I cut two of the bridges, as I like to call them. I used 1/8 of an inch score tape to put this together, but you can see since I cut the biggest window, my little flap here, which is not so little. It's not little enough. So I had to trim it down so it wouldn't show in the window. Next, I just want to fold on all the scored lines, and this one's really thin between the edge of the window and the side panel. So I just used my thumb in the crease to kind of fold it towards me, and then it was a lot easier to fold it back the way that it needed to go. So once I have all of my pieces folded on the score line, I can put together the two largest pieces. I'm just going to remove the backing on that tape and then butt the one up against the other. So put the side of the box up against that score line. Now, before we go any further, we do need to add in our window sheets so that we don't cover up the space where we need to put it with the tab on the other end of the box. So I have two window sheets here, and they are cut down to fit inside this window perfectly. Now I am creating a shaker. So the way that I found it easiest to do this was to create a two-sided window sheet box. So I'm actually going to put my thin foam strips all the way around the window sheet itself. And I want to make sure that those edges of the foam tape are touching so that none of my shaker elements can escape. This is what I call a reservoir. I love to make shaker cards, so I've done this a lot of times. Next, I'm adding some anti-static powder all around that foam tape so that my shaker bits don't touch. Now, I ended up using this like sample of fall leaves. It's so gorgeous, but in the end, it did not really work for this card. So I'm going to show you this just because it shows how to put it together. Also, you don't really want to shake it just yet because look what happened. This is life, right? That's what really happens. So I added my second window sheet to really encase this. Then I can remove the backing of that foam tape around my window and put this shaker box down onto that. Now, some of my foam tape did show through in the window, but that's okay because we're going to build a scene and it's going to be covered up. So I'm adding my first bridge, and I will actually end up moving this. It was way too close to the front of the window, but you can see here, you're going to attach your two bridges to this side panel, making sure the bottom of them is lined up with the bottom of the card. Then you remove the other end, close the card to pick them up so the other end attaches to that other side panel. So the bridges always connect between the two side panels. And there I had to move that panel back, like I said, and now I'm going to enclose this box. So I just removed the last of that double stick tape, close the box down onto that scored line. And there's my shaker. So this shaker mix just had too many tiny pieces that static clinged there. So I'm not going to use it. But now I am using some Distress Oxide sprays and spraying some scraps of watercolor paper. I have Barn Door, Rusty Hinge, Carved Pumpkin, and Mustard Seed, and I'm just sporadically spraying them randomly, and then I'm also using the end of the sprayer to add some larger drops of splatter, and this is what I'm going to use to then die cut out those forest leaves and create the pile of leaves that the squirrel will be jumping into. And I love how they turned out. I feel like this look is perfect for fall leaves with lots of variation in color. It gives them a little bit of texture. They're going to dry back a little bit lighter. They're going to have some oxidization because of that splatter where the center of the drop is lighter and the edge of it's darker. It's so yummy. I love it. So there you can see a close-up look. I die cut all the leaves I could. And I have plenty extra, but it was so much fun. That was my favorite part. Next, I'm going to stencil this very light blue cardstock with the falling leaves stencil. But since I had my sprays out, I'm like, why don't I just spray it instead of do traditional stenciling? So that's what I did. And again, it was tons of fun because once I took this out of the box, I was like, well, I can't waste all that spray on top of this stencil. That would be wrong. It would just be wrong. So I used another piece of paper white to pick up that ink and create a background I can use later. I actually needed 2 of those backgrounds, so I now have 4. I'm going to use those definitely someday. I cut these down to be the back panels of the card and the side panels of the card. Then I am going to use another piece here, all sprayed the same way, and die cut out a bunch of leaves and that treetop, because when I went to cut out the treetop for the front of the card, I see all these tiny leaves in this Tree-MENDOUS die set and realized those would be the perfect shaker elements for my redesigned shaker. So I had to redo the whole shaker box part. I added some white. Does it matter what color the powder is? Probably not. But I redid the shaker, and you can see there I added some seed beads, and these move around much more freely and are going to keep my window more open, so it's not so staticky in there, and you're going to be able to see the scene I'm creating much, much better. So I'm much more happy with that. Next, I'm going to add that back panel in, and you can see it now has a backdrop of those falling leaves. I'm going to do the same panel on the back side of the card. You could leave this more plain so that you could handwrite a sentiment. For the side panels, I could not make this card without using the wood grain texture background because it makes my heart sing. I love it so much. I love wood grain. Anything wood grain makes me joyful. All right, so now I'm going to take my tweezers and carefully add in a bunch of these leaves to create the pile of leaves that my squirrel will be jumping into. And I love the leaves. I love them so much. And I'll use probably like 6 or 7 on the front bridge, and then on the second bridge I only did them across the top, so I use like 3 more. And I have a ton left over. Yay. You know, I have those backgrounds too. So I've got the makings of another card right here ready to go. So there's my treetop I added. And then I also found a scrap that I was able to die cut this grass to put across the bottom. Now the grass die comes with this big shadow box die set. I just needed to cut 2 pieces and kind of overlap them so that it stretched on the outside of the box. It would fit perfectly on the inside when the window's already cut. By the way, I did show there's a second window you can use that's like with a stitched edge, and it creates a smaller opening, so you have choices there. But right when I added that grass, I was like, I really need a tree over here. It's gonna help set the scene so much. So I added the tree in from that Tree-MENDOUS die. I did trim it down to fit this card because that's a big tree. I didn't need all of it, so you can see there, trimmed down. It looks great right on top of that tree top. Oh, love it. Now it's time to stamp out all the elements we're going to be using from that Nutty for You stamp set, and or Nuts for You. I'm going to show you how I colored out one squirrel. I'm using E57 and E23 for this squirrel, and I think I bring in another marker for my lightest color that I will also use on like his face and his belly, which is E55. Now all the brown things on this card I colored with those colors. I added in a little bit of red and a little bit of orange and some blue, so I'm showing you there all the Copic markers that I used to color these up, and there they are, all die cut out with the coordinating dies and ready to go onto this card. So I'm going to add the little bird feeder onto the right hand side of the card. I really feel like the bird feeder is so clever in here because squirrels, at least where I live, are known to raid the birds' food in their bird feeders. Yeah, so those are really clever. I added this bird to the tree, a little squirrel at the bottom. He's going to be watching the other squirrel jump in. And to add the jumping squirrel, I have a little piece of window sheet that I've cut into what I call a pick, like a toothpick, but it's a window pick. And I'm going to stick that down with some glue dots. That's what they're called. They are called glue dots. Yeah, and that goes to the back of one of those bridges, and then he's just suspended there in the air and as cute as can be. I'm going to add an acorn, which is really what he's jumping into the leaves to get because it is time to collect acorns. I'm going to decorate the outside and tell you a little story. I just went camping this past weekend, and it's, you know, about fall time here in Idaho, and there was a squirrel near our camp getting ready for winter, collecting I think pine nuts from pine cones, and he was super irritated that we were in his space where he was trying to collect nuts and dig holes and store them for winter, and he was letting us know, chittering at us. It was really the cutest thing. He was a little bit more black and just so cute, and my dog really wanted to figure out where this little critter's squeaker was, but he never caught the squirrel because we don't let him. But it was a really fun little you know, story that happened for that camping weekend. Okay, so I decorated the sides of the box. Now onto the back, I am stamping Jump for Joy, and I will add another little sentiment to the back of this in just a moment, but let's see how this shakes. And you can see the squirrel kind of wobble when you shake it. Love that. Look at the cute little side images. All right, so I decided I needed to add my white gel pen highlights. I'm not sure, I almost forgot that because it's one of my favorite parts of coloring out my critters. It really brings them to life. I die cut the woohoo and put that at the bottom and use the same cardstock that I used for the tree on the front. So there's the two cards together. They really go nicely together, and I feel like it was a good jumping off point to create this card by being inspired by a card I already made. So if you like these new products from Heffy Doodle, I'm going to have them linked for you below so you can check that out. If you liked this card, let me know with a thumbs up. And of course, you know I love chatting with you, so feel free to leave a comment. And I will see you all again very soon with a new stamping video. Happy stamping! Bye!